afternoon. My name is Hamdi Ado. I'm with the Center for Civil and Political Rights, and I'm here today with Professor Neuman of the Human Rights Committee. Hello.
Hello.
We'd just like to ask you a few questions on the review of Kuwait, and exactly how did the review unfold, and perhaps you could speak in some more detail as to some of the key issues that rose from this dialogue with the state of Kuwait.
Certainly. We met with Kuwait across an afternoon and a morning and a little bit more than that in a constructive dialogue in which they presented their situation. Our members asked a variety of questions. They responded, sometimes more fully, sometimes less fully, to the questions that we asked. And at the conclusion of the dialogue, the committee deliberated and adopted a set of concluding observations, which include conclusions about the human rights situation in Kuwait and recommendations to improve it. There was a lengthy list of expressions of concern, roughly 27 paragraphs of expressions of concern about particular problems in Kuwait. A good number of those problems involved issues of gender discrimination. And at the end of the list, we identified 3 particular sets of concerns and recommendations that we wanted them to follow up with information about in the short term as priority items. And the first of those priority items was the problem of domestic workers. There are over 600,000 domestic workers in Kuwait. They are in an extremely vulnerable situation in which their legal rights are not adequately protected, and we called on Kuwait to abolish the existing framework which is not protecting the rights of the domestic workers and adopt reforms that would ensure that their rights are protected and also would not rely on the individual domestic workers to come forward and claim protection, but would more proactively ensure that they were not subject to such discriminatory and abusive treatment. The second of the priority areas that we identified was a perhaps technical area of criminal procedure, questions about how long a person can be detained without being brought before a judge, being given access to counsel when initially detained, access to one's family. These are important procedural protections which generally protect the right of criminal suspects, but also protect them against the danger of being physically abused in the interrogation process. Finally, the third priority area that we identified had to do with excessive restriction of political speech. Strict laws and strict application of laws that inhibit legitimate political criticism and thereby harm the channels of reform that should be operative in a democratic country like Kuwait. So those were the areas that we particularly focused on: discrimination, domestic workers, the criminal procedure point, and excessive restriction of political speech.
And how do you think or would hope NGO involvement will help with the with the follow-up procedure? So how can NGOs be involved, and how can they take more of an active role in submitting information to the committee when it comes to these key follow-up issues?
Well, the first important role that NGOs have to play is simply within the political process in Kuwait, helping ensure that the government pays attention to these problems, helping make sure that the government, when it makes the choices of how to respond to these recommendations, takes into account the viewpoints of the people whose rights are at stake. NGOs have an important role to play in the domestic political process. They also are welcome to inform us Kuwait will be asked to inform us about how they are responding to our recommendations, and independent information from NGOs who are monitoring the situation can be submitted to us also, so that we have alternative perspectives on how the reform process is going on.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being here with us, and we look forward to seeing more of your work. Thank you.
Thank you.